A lot of you have been asking me to do weekly summaries of what has been happening during the course of the week and give you sort of summary of the most relevant points, at least in my eyes. So I'll try to do these kind of videos more regularly, and hopefully they will be helpful for you to kind of digest the week and hopefully use that knowledge to your advantage. So unless you've been sleeping under a rock, probably you heard by now that Nvidia has actually passed Microsoft to become the most valuable company in the world, not just in the US, I mean, obviously in the US, but therefore also in the world. The incredible performance Nvidia has had in recent times, I mean, just absolutely mind-boggling. In my eyes, really came out of nowhere. I mean, we knew that chips companies would be doing well in the future, but honestly, I couldn't have imagined that they will become the most valuable company in the world. Now, having said that, since the article came out earlier this week, actually, they have already dropped a little bit again. In fact, actually, Microsoft overtook them. So it's very dynamic at the top. You can see the difference between those three at the top, Nvidia, Apple, and Microsoft. Is very negligible. I mean, it's still a huge amount, but that can swing, by the day. A couple of percentages gain in the share price of one of the companies will immediately bring them to the top or not. But still, if we look, the fourth biggest one will be Google, and they're really quite far behind, almost $1 trillion behind. So that's quite a gap over there. Then you have Amazon and the rest. Those three musketeers at the top are really pulling away. But yeah, when we look at the performance Nvidia has had, I mean, look at this over the last year, even compared to Bitcoin. You can see here Bitcoin over the time grew by 113%, while Nvidia grew 194% within the span of a year. If I go to year to date since the beginning of this year, it's also staggering 162% in just a couple of months. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. Everybody talked about Bitcoin, but actually really, credit to Nvidia. Again, as I said, I didn't have them on my radar. I know they would be a strong company, but honestly, I couldn't imagine that they do that well. I mean, over a 5-year period, look at this, 3,200% return. So if you put a lot of money in there, well, you would have done very well. But again, of course, who can predict the future? But the good thing is with Nvidia doing so well, if I pull up the S&P 500 over here, I can see the impact Nvidia alone has on the S&P. If I go to the year-to-date performance, we're up 15%, right? Historically, we talk about growth of the S&P, over the last 30 years between 8 and 10%. So here in a couple of months, already up 15% by investing into the S&P 500. Obviously, a big part of it is the tech growth we've seen in recent times. Over a 5-year period, we're up 85%. So really, really significant growth. I can really see here, since 2020, on a very strong upward trajectory. Do I think we're in the bubble right now? Well, let me zoom out even further. You can see, it's always been going up. Obviously, there have been little resets along the way, but long term, I believe economy, especially the US economy, is continuing to innovate, to evolve and grow, especially with AI right now. Think company going to be much more efficient, leaner, their profit margins going to increase, revenues will increase. So I think overall the stock market will only continue to grow. And honestly speaking, a lot of Americans, they really depend on the S&P 500 to do well because their pension plans are there. Even big institutions put their money, park their money there to grow passively over time. So I think, all politicians, doesn't matter which party they're from, they're really going to make sure that the stock market grows and therefore S&P 500 continues to grow. So I think that's really the core measure of the US economy. So I don't think they're going to let this fall down anytime soon. Will there be resets? Absolutely. Will there be a complete cooling off for a number of years? I just can't see that. On to next topic, and that's actually a term I heard for the first time. It's money dysmorphia. Now, we all heard about the term body dysmorphia, which basically means people looking into the mirror and not feeling comfortable with their bodies, right? And I get it. It can be an uncomfortable feeling if you're not in the shape you want to be in, or, your hair starts receding. Well, don't look too close. We all have things we want to improve. I think that's natural. For some, it's more extreme than others. With money dysmorphia, basically it's the same thing, but about your personal finance. When people look into their bank accounts, especially young people, the feeling when they talk about money, they get real fear because basically they used to getting the money and then just spending it, and then the month is over and the next month starts again, they get the money and they're just on the treadmill every single month, not being able to really save or build and grow their wealth, which is obviously the important part of investing, right? And I really think it goes back to talking about money. Sadly, we don't really learn these things in school, which is really such a shame, right? We learn really the weirdest topics and themes. Some people still learn Latin in school, which I think is absolutely crazy, but we never talk about, business, economy, all these things that are really relevant skills to have. And I think that's a real problem. That's why there's so much ambiguity about it. And let's be honest, right? With our friends and family, we also don't really talk about it. So it's hard to kind of naturally pick it up. So unless you're really inquisitive, you want to learn, you want to read books on the topic, you want to watch content around this, follow maybe some YouTubers, such as Smart Money with Kai. There's great free information out there. But sadly, people feel overwhelmed. And in the end, they end up doing stupid things with their money, not investing it, and basically wasting their precious life away, not grow their money, because that's really where you see the differentiation between rich and wealthy people and poor people, so to say, because some use the money to make them more money, while others simply are trapped in the money race that they have to chase every single month, earn the income, and then spend all the income that they make, the salary, to pay for the living expenses. And that's a really vicious cycle. It's hard to get out of this. Often what ends up, they go into debt, right? It's so easy these days to get the option of buy now, pay later. I think it's so bad, especially paying that way for holiday, for example. You get to enjoy a nice trip, but then you end up paying high interest for a number of months afterwards when you actually don't even get pleasure out of it anymore. And that's just really so bad. So I hope that will change in the future, that there's more people talking about the topic and they will really focus on getting people up to speed and increasing their knowledge around the topic of money, investing, finances. I think it's super important. Another quite surprising news for all Apple shareholders was that they came out with the news that apparently the new Vision Pro, which just launched not so long ago, will be kind of halted. Basically, that they're slashing their production for the Vision Pro and right now really focusing on coming up with a more cost-efficient way, which honestly probably makes sense. I mean, if we go on the website over here, you can see right now you can buy it, what is this in the US? The 256 GB version, so the cheapest one, so to say, for $3,500. I mean, that's a lot of money for buying a first iteration device, right? That's a first generation. And I never really go for the first generation because they're always going to be learnings and improvements. So probably I would wait anyways. I think that's really too much for a lot of people, right? I mean, yes, for a laptop, you would end up spending a similar amount, but that's really something you can really start working with and so forth. Here, still a lot of people have question marks about the device. Are we going to see such device in the future? And is it going to be the future? Potentially, I think, Apple usually kind of leads the way if they do something, but I think right now the price point is just way too high for many people. So in a way, I'm happy that they're actually working on bringing down the cost and making it more accessible for more people. It's still going to be a premium device, right? Let's be honest. I mean, all the things Apple is making, I mean, even these little tiny things are very expensive for what they are, but usually they are great products. And yeah, but I think if they can bring the price point down a little bit, it will really help them. But really kudos to Apple. I mean, after they've been on quite a downward trend for the last few months since the beginning of the year, after the recent announcements around all the new AI changes that they're going to bring, officially the Apple Intelligence. I mean, you see the stock price really went up quite a lot, especially when they came out with the news that was around, I think that was on the 10th of June, the developers conference. And shortly after, to be honest, I was quite underwhelmed with their news around AI, but actually, people really liked it. And now in hindsight, I do understand better what they meant. So it's not that they really incorporate ChatGPT for everything. They have their own intelligence, just certain things that they can't do on device, they will then send it via cloud to ChatGPT. So it's more real a partnership, not just only relying on them. So that's really good to see. So yeah, you can see really brought the price up quite a bit, but then it declined also a little bit. But yeah, year to date so far up 11%, which actually is less than the S&P 500. So once again, guys, I mean, I'm just the biggest fan of investing into the S&P because that way you benefit from all those great companies doing even better. And yeah, I mean, you get the best of both worlds without having to pick a single winner. Some more news of the week was that Fisker, one of the promising EV companies from the US, had to file for bankruptcy in the US. So that was one of the promising EV companies rivaling potentially Tesla. But then not so long ago, famous YouTuber MKBHD made a video reviewing the Fisker and he called it one of the worst cars he had ever driven. And yeah, obviously now people blame him that the company went bust. But honestly, I think it's just an honest guy that reviewed a car that was probably not well done, right? So I mean, it's his honest opinion. So I mean, if that's a bad car, then that's a bad car, right? One guy cannot bankrupt the whole company. So I think it's more than just that. They were already having issues before and they admitted to that. But yeah, now they filed for bankruptcy. And of course, on top of this, in Europe and the US, you do see a little bit of a decline in EV car sales. You can see over here, EV car registration in 4 major markets down in May. That was alone in Italy, in Germany, France. Overall, definitely, you do see a slight declining trend over there. And of course, BYD, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, EV car manufacturer in the world from China, have been doing so well actually, really, because their models are so much cheaper. But now you see even Warren Buffett, who really believed in them and invested a lot, dumped a lot of shares because now, once again, there's more trade tensions going on. Europe just introduced new import tariffs on Chinese goods and potentially cars as well. So I think it's really competitive. And honestly, not a space that I would be investing in right now. I think it's so unpredictable where it's going to go. I was even thinking to buy an EV car myself. I always loved Tesla, but honestly, in recent times, I kind of shifted away from that. A, I think there are more nicer looking cars out there. And B, right now in Lithuania where I live, even in Dubai, right, the infrastructure for EV cars is just not so strongly established yet. It's getting better with every year, but right now I don't think it's quite there yet. And again, I don't want to be an early adopter and then struggling, getting around with things. So I think right now it's not quite the time, and I'll rather see how things play out, if it's really going to be the way. And then obviously eventually I'm going to get an EV car, but for the time being I wouldn't buy. And I think a lot of people are sitting, on the fence and not really committing to that yet. Another great news of the week, it looks like we're finally going to be having our spot ETF launched and approved. It has been kind of approved already, but officially launched. It looks like, it's not confirmed, but 2nd of July. So sometime July would be most likely to happen. So I think once again will be good for the crypto markets. Will it take money away from Bitcoin? I don't think so, because it's quite different asset classes in a way, but I believe it will just give more credibility overall to crypto, which previously has been seen, oh my God, it's something really fishy to invest in. But now that you have Bitcoin ETF, in the future Ethereum ETF from companies like BlackRock, right? For me and many other people new to the space, it just gives credibility that investing into the crypto space can actually be a solid and trusted investment. Of course, looking at the crypto markets, they haven't really done too well the last week overall. It's been a little bit of a sideward trend. You can see the last 7 days over here. Most of them kind of remain flat, slightly in the red over here, a couple of ones that are up. And of course, just a quick reminder of the Bitcoin dominance of all the various cryptos out there. Most recently it was around 52%. So real dominance, then 18% for Ethereum, and then some of the rest. So yeah, really interesting to see. And a topic I'm getting more and more interested in are stable coins. So these are basically, digital tokens reflecting real fiat money, in this case, the US dollars. And one of the biggest one is USDT, US Tether basically, which is basically moving one-to-one with the dollar. There's also USDC. So these are the two biggest ones. And you can see the market cap, $112 billion market valuation. So serious money. And I'm actually right now doing the same. I'll do a video on this very soon, where I transfer some of my fiat dollars, my actual dollars that I have in my bank, send them to my crypto exchange of choice, which is Nexo. So that I can easily exchange my USD for USDT. So it's basically one-to-one, right? It's just a digital version of the dollar, so to say. And now I'll be getting 10% interest. That is per year, but much more attractive, almost twice the amount that I'm currently getting. So really interesting. A lot of people doing the same. And of course, using USDT to send it around the world, pay for things is much easier than, for example, holding Bitcoin, right? It's faster, it's cheaper. And of course, it doesn't fluctuate as much. Bitcoin is something you want to hold long term, but USDT is really something, basically a digital dollar. And if you wanted to, right? Of course, you do have a little bit of a platform risk. The platform could go underwater, and you do have a little bit of a risk of Tether going underwater, or maybe not hedging it one-to-one. So if everybody cashed out the USDT, do they really have 100% of the funds? They say they do, they have orders and so forth. But luckily, we haven't been in a situation where that was the case. But so far, I can really see the growth of fiat-backed stable coins only going up. Really crazy numbers over here. So very impressive. And the last point I really found interesting is the point of how ChatGPT and other AIs will impact freelancers, right? Because a lot of people these days work from home or work from anywhere, the digital nomads, they make money online being freelancers. You could go register yourself on websites like Fiverr, for example, or Upwork, and just, list your services you're doing, what you want to do. For example, every day I'm being approached by at least 3 to 5 people every single day in my inbox wanting to do video editing for me. And thank you for reaching out, but you don't have to bother anymore. No, I don't need anyone. And in fact, actually, in the future, I do believe the AI is getting so good that I'll basically record a video, send it to my AI, ask it which style I want it to be edited, click enter, it will do its thing, and it will be a perfect product, probably even better than some humans can ever edit it. The same with, for example, thumbnail design, right? So many people here competing around making thumbnails, and also they're reaching out to me all the time. I'll make you very highly converting thumbnails, what have you. They're starting from as little as €5, but if they do a lot, obviously that will start adding up and they make good money from it. Once again, I believe these things can all be done by AI in the future, right? Or script writing, or email management, virtual VAs. A lot of the things that people made money in the past, I think it's going to get very difficult to compete in the future with AI. So the question is, of course, what can you do to protect yourself? And well, I always said, it's important to educate yourself and use AI to your advantage, because like AI or not, it's not going to disappear, right? Evolution is only going to continue, and we're only going to be using more and more AI in the future, like it or not. So use it to your advantage, become a better freelancer, right? Help other people use AI in a more efficient way. Ultimately, it's just a tool, right? You have to still be able to use AI. We all have the same tool. We can all pay $20 for ChatGPT, but in the end, what you get out is only as good as how much you put it in, what you ask it for. It's like like Google, right? You can look for anything, how to start a company, and you will find everything out there. On YouTube, the same. But if it was that easy to actually implement it, then everybody would be the next Elon Musk. But it's not that easy. It's about the implementation as well. So rather than being scared of AI, use it to your advantage to level up your skills and your offering. And I think even if you're not a freelancer, in your daily job, it's just as important. We've seen so many companies recently cut many jobs to replace them with AI. And honestly, I think it's just the beginning. As I said at the start of the video, I think we're going to see companies continuing to do so even more to become more efficient, lowering their costs and therefore increasing their profitability. From a shareholder's point of view, it's attractive, but a lot of people are going to really be suffering if they don't keep up with the AI development and using it to their advantage. All right, friends, I hope you like this kind of format. Let me know in the comments if I should be doing more of those in the future. Happy to hear from you. Next up, check out this video over here. As always, stay healthy, get wealthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.